So it's Saturday morning. I'm here on an East End street in London. Just rented a Boris bike for Carl. It's Carl's first time on a Boris bike. It's £2 a day to rent a Boris bike. Let's see what
Carl's used to really nice specialised.
It's a good bike. I've been using Boris bikes for years. Great bikes, good for £2 a day. But let's go and see what we can see today in London. But first, I think we need an English breakfast. Okay, slightly different way of doing my videos. I'm experimenting. So at the moment, I'm speaking into a Yeti mic. It's a microphone I used to speak into when I was doing my progression radio show. It's been a while since I did the progression radio show. You can still find old episodes on mixcloud.com, and then I think it's /progression AVT. But this is me out for a cycle. Started in the East End and literally about to head on to Cable Street. A little bit shaky, but this is a journey on a Saturday, and I'm out with my mate Carl. He's a good lad from up north, York to be precise. That's him on the bike. Notice the cycle lanes, and Carl isn't on the cycle lanes, so there's no, what's the cycle lane to Carl? Doesn't matter. Doesn't really matter. And obviously let's speed this up because we don't need to see us all cycling. But on our way to go have an English breakfast, and fast forward mode, I don't really cycle this fast. I wish I could, because I could get across London at a far quicker pace than I currently do. However, cycling is the quickest mode of transport in London. I urge you to give it a go. $36, yeah? So here I am at the mural of the Battle of Cable Street. This was a mural sort of commemorates how the East Enders came out in force to sort of stand against Oswald Mosley's fascist party.
Passing the Tower of London, 5,000 fascists rally to their mobilisation for the much advertised march through the East End. And Sir Oswald Mosley, faction leader, arrives at Warwick Street to inspect its followers. Instead, thousands of East Enders prepare to resist the invasion, barricading the path the National will take. 6,000 police are already concentrated in the area. Others are rushing to reinforce them. Communists have made a right their troops to jam the fascists, resisting the peaceful efforts of the outnumbered police to clear the way. Instead, by Jackson anti-red, anti-blue propaganda, IBM boroughs unsuccessfully petitioned the Home Office to forbid the march. Now the crowd takes action to their own hands. Mounted police come their colleagues' help. Battens are drawn and nets broken as the anti-fascist demonstrators resist efforts to disperse them.
It's a mural that I've cycled past many times, a mural I've walked past many times. So just off Cable Street. The battle was on Cable Street, which is just there where that bus is. The road that you just saw us cycling down with the blue lanes is Cable Street. But this happened in 1936. Obviously a lot changed after 1936. This little man over here, I think he's represented in the mural. But an interesting mural nonetheless, and it's well maintained. It's worth a visit, and hopefully never again. So in a way, not much has changed. The anti-fascists are still fighting against the so-called fascist, although the fascists don't really exist that much these days. Antifa will basically label anyone on the conservative right or even centre to the right as fascist these days. Judging by my recent videos, you're probably going to start believing that I'm some sort of hardline Christian, but far from the truth. I'm actually agnostic. No longer an atheist, but agnostic. This is St. George in the East Church. It was commissioned in 1711 by an Act of Parliament. It's an Anglican church, and it was built sometime between 1714 and 1729. A lot of history here. It's been a movie set and a couple of things, and I know it was in series 2 of episode 1 of Killing Eve. You know what I might do? I might splice some of that into this clip in a moment, but let's have a look around the grounds, because the grounds are very beautiful. It's a very, considering all the noise around in the surrounding areas, this is a fairly peaceful church ground in the east end of London. In the Second World War, the church was almost completely destroyed by the Luftwaffe, but thankfully it has been repaired in recent years, and it does actually, for what I hear, have a fairly strong congregation of people. But yeah, let's watch the scene from Killing Eve. This is the scene. I think I'm going to have to talk over a little bit, because if I don't, then I get done for copyright.
Oh, Eve, this is Oliver. Oliver, say hello.
I'll be honest,
to Eve.
I've never seen this. I've never seen this show. It's on my to-do list and things to watch. I will eventually get around to watching Killing Eve. It does look quite good, actually.
My father used to come to this park all the time.
If you guys have
To the
seen
men's
it,
bathing pond
let me
over
know
there.
if I should begin watching
Very
series 1
popular
and
in
then
the 50s with
series 2.
spies.
I presume there's going to be more,
Ideal place for a
or maybe there
senseless
already is.
conversation.
Let me know,
And to have sex with
and I
boys,
will
of
watch
course,
it.
which
But
would
sadly,
be
I made a
added bonus
mistake.
for Daddy.
I'm on the highway, which is just to the south of Cable Street, on the way to the Tower of
Paris.
London. This is a
Carol,
very
no, don't
dangerous road to be
apologise.
cycling on.
it's a waste of my time and yours.
Watch this. What the fuck? What the fuck? Wow, honestly, that unnerved me. That was the definition of an incredibly aggressive, rude, maniac driver. And there we go, there's his number plate, T123ECL. What a complete piece of crap. The guy was literally a centimetre from hitting my handlebars, and he almost hit Carl behind myself. I think Carl probably got actually worse off than myself. Not a safe road to ride on. But a little bit of history on this road. It's a really interesting road, in fact. This is the highway, formerly known as the Ratcliffe Highway. The route dates back to the Roman times. In the 19th century, it had a notorious reputation for vice and crime, and was the location of the infamous Ratcliffe Highway murders. The name Ratcliffe literally means red cliff, referring to red sandstone cliffs, which descended from the plateau on which this road was situated down to Wapping Marshes to the south. A little bit of a boring fact there for you. Something I learned recently, a guy from the 1800s, a guy called Charles Jamrach, he was effectively known as the world's most renowned dealer in wild animals. He opened Jamrach's Animal Emporium on the highway. The store became the largest pet store in the world, as seafarers moored at the port of London and sold any exotic animals they had brought with them to Jamrach. Because at the time, London was one of the world's greatest shipping places. It rivaled, in today's terms, you have Singapore. Back then it was London. The north entrance is the nearby tobacco dock. Great place for techno now, but back then it was a place for tigers. At the north entrance of the nearby tobacco dock stands a bronze sculpture of a boy standing in front of a tiger, commemorating the incident where a fully grown Bengal tiger escaped from Jamrach's shop into the street, picked up and carried off the small boy, who had approached and tried to pet the animal, having never seen such a big cat before. You've got to remember, this is the 1800s. The boy escaped unhurt after Jamrach gave chase and prized open the animal's jaws with his bare hands. The tale was an inspiration for the 2011 novel Jamrach's Menagerie, by the British author Carol Birch. Just for your guide, the last bit I had to read off Wiki because I didn't know it all. So a little bit of advice for people that are not accustomed to cycling in London. Probably best stay away from the highway. There are designated cycle lanes on Cable Street, which is one block to the right of where I am now. Schoolboy error. I shouldn't have really been cycling down this road. You're allowed to cycle down this road. There's no reason you can't be cycling down this road. But because, as we witnessed earlier, there are some serious psychopaths in London, not just carrying knives, but also driving deadly weapons like cars and minivans and white vans and lorries. One of the most common ways to die on a bike in London is not being aggressive enough at the front of the traffic and allowing one of the big juggernauts to sort of turn left onto you. Never a wise move. So anytime you come to a junction, make sure you are firmly ahead of the traffic, even if that means just sort of, pulling up ahead or, clipping onto the pavement. You do not want to be on the left side of a vehicle that's turning left.
If you look down, you're gonna fall, you're gonna have a bad time.
And of course, given the fact that cycles are always to the left of the vehicles, just like I am right now, if you're not paying attention and they turn left into you, then it could be nasty.
If you look down, you're gonna fall, you're gonna have a bad time.
Thankfully, the traffic in London generally moves at snail pace, so it is pretty easy to avoid an accident like that. The hard part is getting past the traffic. As you can see, most drivers are incredibly selfish. The useless London mayor really needs to build a cycle lane on this path. They could get rid of one of these lanes. Maybe that's something that will happen. Of course, when they do that, everyone will complain and say, there's tailbacks. Drivers will complain, but you know what? It might save some people's lives. I think... No, shall I fast forward this or... actually the view starts to get a little bit more interesting from here because just up ahead of us is the Tower of London and the City of London. Obviously, if you come up from Cable Street, it's far easier to navigate over because there's actually a designated cycle lane. What you're seeing right now is the mistake that myself and Carl made by going down the highway and now having to navigate the road by crossing pedestrian crossings and just trying to get to a place where we can park our bikes. But I think now it would probably be appropriate if I just sort of speed up the footage and get on with it. So a little bit of a detour, unexpected detour actually, because having come from Cable Street, the plan was to then go to a East End diner, but for some reason I took myself onto the highway. Now you can actually cycle on the highway, but clearly there are some complete a-holes that don't like you cycling. You may have noticed a van beeping in the footage. I would have loved to have caught up to the guy. Sadly, there's not much traffic in London today, and I know this is considered not much traffic. So we're just going to go have a bite to eat in the this public house here. just right next to Four Seasons. Not quite as classy though, but it will do. I think today might turn into a bit of a pub crawl. The first pub, a bit of an English institution run by a Brexiteer. This is a Webster's. So we're going to try and take in as many pubs as possible today. But first we're going to start with coffees. Alrighty, so we're right in. Alrighty, so we're just past Tower Hill. We filled up on our late brunch. Just above me, that's the walkie-talkie. Now, have you been here when it was first built? All around me, there'd be cars melting because of the really bad design of the building. The sun would magnify onto the glass, smashing down onto the road. Not really a term I should really be using, no, deflecting down onto the road. And melting car roofs, melting car plastic, you name it. There was a lot of unhappy car owners on this road. So they had to change the design, and now actually they kind of made it kind of ugly because it's black. But that used to be glass. We just tried to rent a bike from here, this Forest bike over here. Failed. Apparently not all the terminals in London work. It's the first time I've come across this, so now we're going to go find another terminal to rent another bike to continue our journey. Lovett Lane, just on the edge of the city. You can hear the sort of church bells. Someone's just got married. But all the roads in London, not all of them, but a lot of the roads in London used to be this sort of narrow. The reason they're not anymore is because the Luftwaffe destroyed a lot of London blocks. So in the rebuild, roads were widened, and roads like this no longer really exist. This is one of the few. They do exist sporadically around London, but it's always nice through these quiet streets. Although not so quiet, because you can hear the church bells. And here's another decent pub. I don't know, is it too early for a pint? It's almost 12. I think it's the influence of the camera, or it could be the fact that Carl is here. But I wanted to show him and you a little bit of culture. So this video isn't just going to be me cycling around on pavements. I wasn't cycling on pavements. I'm going to take you to the monument. This used to be the biggest monument in London. It symbolises where the Fire of London started, although it started just a little bit away from here. But if we go up, it's going to be a great view of the surrounding area. Take in the sights and sounds of London. Oh, I could be wrong. I think this might not be happening. The queue is... well, no, the queue's not so bad. I was thinking the queue was stretching back for a long way. So let's check it out. Alrighty, a little bit dark, probably the image quality is going to be better. Sound terrible, but it's 311 steps to climb right now. It's a good kind of leg workout. I've lost Carl already. Carl's Carl, you're actually doing something cultured.
Yeah, different than just a bar, isn't it? It reminds me of climbing up the steep white face on the Vietnam.
It reminds me of Vietnam.
Yeah, it's the stairs.
That's a very bizarre life thing.
All these stairs.
They have stairs in Vietnam.
That's amazing. Up the rock face, yeah. Ooh, can you feel the burn?
Not yet.
50-year-old house.
I was
Yeah, perfect. That sounds like a really good way.
50-year-old abs. You're not using your abs, are you? So, I don't know how. Okay.
Are we at the bottom yet?
No.
Thank you. Dinner. It's getting nicer. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, there's daylight. So, almost there. Thank you.
Oh, look at that! I'm letting go up.
There we go.
I am.
As it gets a little bit windy up here, I figured I'd take her over on the mic. So I'm standing at the top of the monument. It's been designed by Christopher Wren, also the man that designed St. Paul's Cathedral. A little bit of background, it's obviously commemorating and remembering the Great Fire of London that started on September the 2nd, 1666. An ominous number, really, given the 666 association. So it famously started at a bakery in Pudding Lane. Catastrophic fire blazed for more than 3 days and destroyed over 13,000 houses, churches and government buildings. It's a shame about the houses and the churches, not such a big shame about the government buildings. You've got to realise that London in the 17th century was a sprawling and disorganised conurbation with thousands of buildings inside the old Roman wall at its heart. The area known confusingly as the City may well have been the centre of the English commerce, but it was also an enormous fire hazard due to its narrow warrens of houses and workshops. The ballooning population ignored the law that banned the use of wooden thatch and continued to construct up to 6 or 7 story buildings with overhanging jetties whose roofs would often meet. It's generally accepted that the Lord Mayor should have acted more decisively when pressed to authorise the demolition of such buildings to create a fire break. Having failed to cut off the fire in the early hours of Sunday morning, it quickly spread to the south and the west thanks to the wind. By lunchtime, most residents had given up all hope of extinguishing the flames themselves, and instead were fleeing the fire. This mass of refugees in the narrow streets made it almost impossible for professional fire crews to reach the blaze. It's generally believed that the fire was only brought under control due to the use of gunpowder to create large fire breaks, which coincided with the previously strong winds dying down. Then the biggest challenge, trying to rebuild the city from the smouldering ruins. But look what we have today. It's a different type of view. It's a bit more. So while Carl just pointed out that there might be better views in London, this is actually more of a historical view by the fact that it literally used to be the tallest monument in London. Now, modern London has built itself up around us. For example, up here, the walkie-talkie, great view, you can stand up on the balcony, but when you go up there, it feels like an airport lounge. It doesn't have the history, but you are looking down on the history. But if you want a great view and it's free, you can go up there. This costs a £5, by the way. And it's worth it.
Free.
it's free as long as you book. You basically got to buy a cocktail usually, so it's not quite free. You got to make a booking, have a few drinks, but we're going to be doing that anyway. Worst mayor of all time works in that building. We call it the gonad because it looks like a gonad. Maybe the left side or the right side, that's for you to decide. And obviously Tower Bridge over there. But we're surrounded by a lot of history. Every building, almost every building, every block around here has some sort of symbology. It's always me. I spent most of my life in this city, and it's a city that's changing. Because if you look at Canary Wharf over there, you can still see the skyscrapers growing. A lot of buildings are still growing. That tall one is going to be taller than the rest. I don't know what that one's going to be called. The one over here is going to be taller than the rest. So London is slowly inching up certainly with each decade that goes by. But it's at the moment the pace of growth seems to be so large that every year there's a new tall building. And obviously the tallest building at the moment is the Shard right behind me. But it's yeah. I mean, like for example, I used to work in that glass building over there. I used to work just behind the cheese grater. We head down past the new building. I used to work there. Head towards St. Paul's over there, and you see the sort of the grater building. I work just to the left of that. So there's a lot of places I've sort of spent a lot of time on, and then of course all these streets, walked, cycled, taken in every pub on the corner. There's a great pub down there which we saw earlier. This is a city that just has a lot to offer, and I think I get angry a lot by seeing what's happening to the city, and it doesn't. I'm not angry at seeing the change. I think that's great. What I'm angry at is seeing the sort of the level of disorder, crime rate increasing. I don't think you'd want to have kids in London because it's a dangerous place for kids. Kids are most likely to be targeted when it comes to crime. But it's a great place to visit if you're coming from outside London and you're going to stick to the centre. But there's certain peripheral areas of London right now that are really struggling. The Finn? Yeah. That's the residential tower block. Cheapest studio apartment, I think, will set you back about $1.2 million. Jesus. So just made it down. I think it was 313 steps. 311 steps. There we go. So Carl gets the certificate because he didn't think he was going to make it. So now he's got the certificate. And all in all, for a five, a lot of fun. A lot of fun, good view. Obviously not one of the highest views in London, but it was. You feel a slight achievement going up and down. What's interesting, a lot of places have a sort of double helix type staircase where you can avoid people who are going up and you can avoid people who are going down, depending on which way you're going. This one doesn't, very old school. They need to look to places like Prague for a sort of inspiration if they want to redesign those staircases. Not for the faint-hearted, the stairs are a little bit slippy, so make sure you've got grip in your shoes. Onwards, let's see what else we can see today. Alrighty. this monstrosity. Exactly. What do they have this here for? That's the question. See, this is one of the most, well, I wouldn't say it's the most bizarre thing in London, but it's certainly a bizarre sight. The fact that there's two sphinxes and there's an obelisk. Now, as you're familiar with all my videos, everywhere I seem to travel, there's obelisks everywhere. London is no exception. There's obelisks all over this city, and this is a prime example. And it's right opposite the Savoy Hotel. The Savoy Hotel over here, hotel that was frequented and a favourite of Charlie Chaplin. He'd often come out on the balcony and wave to his fans. And I think that's where he spent his last days, at the Savoy Hotel. Although it's currently under construction, I believe. Because I could be wrong, but that's it there. And there's a lot of controversy, especially amongst conspiracy theorists, what these obelisks and sphinx actually represent. Some say just simply a gift to the Queen and the country. Others say symbolic of maybe a darker presence. Illuminati, Freemasonry, possibly connected to this. Do you believe in the Illuminati? Epstein recently supposedly committed suicide. Some would say he was massively connected to these shady characters. If you talk out about them, suddenly people disappear. And one of the most shady characters of recent times, certainly of this year, Epstein, thankfully now gone. What a scumbag he was, but clearly he was offed because certain individuals didn't want him talking. And these individuals are involved in ceremonies, and certain ceremonies relate back to the obelisks. It's all very dark, it's all very skull and bones, it's all very secret societies. Who really knows? I'm certainly not involved in it. I've never been invited to understand what this is all about. But we can just wonder what it's all about. And I do wonder if there's far, far more dark things going on in this city and on this world. And do they link back to these things? Or is it just simply something that looks pretty on the Thames? You let me know in the comments below. What do you think? There's some amazing videos on YouTube, certainly 1,000 times better than I can ever do justice on experts in this. Bright Lights is one of them. He talks about this. There's some amazing conspiracy theorists and also historians that talk about the connections between the sphinxes and the Illuminati and the sphinxes and the shadow governments of the world. But yeah, I thought I'd just stop off on the way. I better continue. Going to head over to the South Bank, which is over here. South Bank Theatre, go have a drink. I'm getting a little bit sweaty now. Shouldn't have worn a jumper with a leather jacket, but I always make the mistake thinking it's too cold and then the sun comes out. were going to head towards the South Bank, but I heard some protests heading up as I was trying to park my bike near Trafalgar Square, and I wanted to go check it out, see what all the fuss is about. I see there's a lot of police. There's always something going on over here. The question is, what's the protest about today? Is it something we can support? Is it something I can get behind, or is it something that's unnecessary? Let's go find out. I think they're going that way, aren't they? I think we missed it.
Yeah, they're going to Parliament Square, aren't they?
These guys I actually do support. These are the yellow vests. Good people. They are.
We'll say once again, why is this lady in prison? We're not fully sure. Is she on remand, or has she actually been sentenced? We don't know. She doesn't know. But what we're very, very sure of is the fact that she is in prison in order to silence her because of what she knows about the abuse and indeed death of children at Beechwood's Children's Home, Nottingham, and also the role of politicians.
Always something going on, mate. Yeah. So I think there's actually quite a few protests going on today, and also there's a little bit of a celebration. There was a protest that went down that way with Australian flags. I have no idea what it was, I missed it. But as over here is the small sort of fringe group, the yellow vests. I'll be honest, I actually support these guys. I'm not a member, I've never been part of it, but I support the yellow vests. They sort of believe in equality in the system, and they want to take down the sort of shadow government that is ruling us. But they also have a little sort of grievances. There's justice for Melanie Shaw. This is a person that's been illegally locked away by the government. There's justice for there's the mothers that I always seem to see out and about in London, sort of highlighting their sort of the fact that their boys were run over. The police claim it was a hit and run. It really wasn't a hit and run. The guys, it was meditated murder by some jihadis, and the government is too afraid to admit that, too afraid to admit there's a problem, and they just put it down as a hit and run. But these guys want justice, and I fully support them. I'm not here today for them, but it's nice. I see them and I give them a thumbs up.
In January 2018, a group of children were walking along this pavement when a car mounted the pavement, striking them. 5 children were hit. 3 of those children died at the scene: George, Harry and Josh. They were on their way to a 16th birthday party when a black Audi, travelling over 70 miles an hour, mounted the pavement, running into them from behind, throwing one of them over an 8-foot fence into a nearby cemetery. Just like in Hillsborough and Leicester, the media reported this as a tragic accident, and the police claim it was a drunk driver who lost control of his car. But the parents believe their boys are at the centre of a major cover-up.
The collision report which we asked for, they actually gave us an interim report, but in that interim report there are parts in there that show he had complete control of the car the whole time. They led us to believe that when he overtook so much that he came near a barrier, which made him sort of pull in like that. That's how it was described, and that his back rear wheel ran along the curb For the first time yesterday, we saw the CCTV evidence. It was a flawless manoeuvre. It wasn't how it was described.
The crash report contradicts both the police and the judge's accounts, and it is just one of many things that don't add up about this case. And now Tracy and the other parents have been left to spread the word themselves.
Within 30 to 40 minutes, they said it wasn't a terrorist attack. I questioned the police officer on this and said, why have you done that when you haven't spoken to anyone? The driver has been put into an induced coma. So how can you put something like that out before you even speak to anyone, before you do any investigation? All I got was, sorry about that. They were seen on CCTV sitting in Asda's car park, which is literally about 5 minutes away from Shepperdston Lane. They were sitting there for 2 hours and 20 minutes. No one approached the car and no one left that car. When they come out of Asda's car park, they turn left. From that moment, apparently, until they appear where they did what they did to our sons, they cannot find them anywhere, the police said, on any CCTV. They checked everywhere and cannot find them until that moment of them appearing there. I've looked at the route, we've done our own investigation, which we shouldn't have to do. In fact, I've never been in a place that is so cameraed up. We tried to count them, the amount of cameras there, and you couldn't, there's just that many. I researched the driver and I couldn't find him anywhere here before 2010. So when our family liaison officer did finally ring us, because she didn't have a phone so we could never get hold of her, I said to her, I cannot find the driver in this country before 2010, and she was very adamant. I'm telling you now, this is her exact words, I am telling you now, he was born here like the passenger was, they was both born in Hillingdon. It came out that the driver was not born here, and I looked straight at the police officer and I said to her, you told me he was born here, now why did you lie? She never ever answered that question to this day. So at the CPS meeting I asked, did you search the driver's home? The sergeant to the left of us said, no, we didn't, we couldn't get a section 18. But they did go round there and people were sleeping, so they didn't go in.
They didn't want to wake them up.
Yeah, they didn't want to wake them up. I was utterly disgusted by that response. 3 children have been murdered and you're telling me you don't want to wake someone up. If I'm honest, I believe it's because of the nationalities, because the police storm your homes on the most menial of things. This is 3 murdered children, or they're so frightened of being called a racist. How is it racist to search someone's home where 3 children have just been killed?
Police kept the parents waiting in the lobby of a nearby hotel while news of the boy's death spread on social media. It would be another 5 hours before they were told the collision was fatal, meaning they were the last to know. The contempt the police have shown these parents and the lack of even the most basic investigation has left them unable to find closure.
Yeah. Let's give it up for our beautiful brothers and sisters. Come on, better than that. And look how beautiful and wonderful and poised and dignified and all those other superlatives I can drop today. I really give thanks, thank you. So, ready now? You don't look like you're ready.
See, there's
You're not ready?
There's always something interesting going on in Trafalgar Square. It's a bit of a tourist trap.
Maybe we should charge them. You know?
Nelson,
I'll soon come round.
if he has any sort of connection to this place by the fact that his statue sits at the top of the plinth,
This
I think you would
thanks.
find most days in Trafalgar Square interesting.
Our ancestors.
There's always something going on. Some days are a little bit cringy. Some days it's a lot of people hustling just for money. Some days it's just tourists bumping into other tourists taking pictures. If you've never been there, the National Gallery is worth checking out. It's an amazing gallery. It's free to enter. I don't think I'll go there today, but you know what? If there's enough demand in the comments, I'll go there on another day. Check it out.
Who doesn't know?
Best stop speaking because he's over speaking
Well,
on me.
apparently some new initiative to cut down so-called knife crime. They are putting some kind of whatever, I don't know what it is, on chicken boxes. Because supposedly that's all we do. Nyam chicken. And the reason why I make this as a serious point is until we take control of our own destiny, whatever that looks like, people will continue to do to us what the hell they feel like. So when you hear about a footballer who misses a penalty and gets the worst kind of abuse you could imagine, including somebody putting a lynching by the Ku Klux Klan on Twitter associated with his name, and they can get away with it, don't try and convince me that something.
It's actually a shame I stopped filming. What happened with the beautiful music turned into a political rant. A rant about victimhood, a rant that everyone's still a victim. It's a shame. I think we as a society need to stop trying to pretending to be victims. No one's a victim in the West. Try living in the third world. This is people that live here are very lucky, and the fact is this guy is simply using he calls his British passport a red book that gives him access to the world. He doesn't even, despite the fact he was born here, doesn't consider himself British, and I think that's a shame. I think it's a real shame. Anyway, trying to calm down because it's not, you hear about political rants and people sort of disrespecting the country they live in. I didn't record it stupidly, but you don't want to hear that. And yet this is going on in the centre of Trafalgar Square. It normally have, there's always some political rant going on. And it's normally disrespecting the English, it's normally disrespecting Britain, the country that gave them so much. It's a shame.
Ready for a beer, man?
Yeah.
Well, did you find a tube thing?
You can rant, but keep it PC. I wouldn't want
I was going to actually grab your camera down there and talk about John Noakes and health and safety. You think back in the day, John Noakes climbed Trafalgar Square with no netting, with no scaffolding at all. It was just a ladder tied around Trafalgar Square and he got right to the top.
Did he?
Can you imagine doing that these days? It would be cordoned off.
Greenpeace did that about 2 years ago.
Did they really?
Yeah, Greenpeace climbed to the top of Nelson's Column to sort of, I think they were protesting big oil again. That's usually what they protest.
Oh, well, John Noakes wasn't protesting. He was just showing the kids how he could do it.
Exactly.
John Noakes was a great British institution.
A bit like Only Fools and Horses.
Yeah.
Actually, very popular production in London. It's I think it's sold out most days.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with British television, then Only Fools and Horses is one of the better comedies that has happened in certainly in our generation.
I think we're on a winner here, Tree. All right, play it nice and cool, son. Nice and cool. You know what I mean?
You don't really get comedy like that anymore. And certainly, I can't remember. Not since The Office has the BBC produced any good comedy. And the BBC did produce Only Fools and Horses, along with Fawlty Towers, which is one of the greatest comedies ever. But walking up Shaftesbury Avenue right now, this is the edge of theatre town, Touristville. Leicester Square will be in that sort of direction. We can take a left. And really looking forward to seeing this movie. Have you guys seen it yet? I think by the time this video goes up, I would have probably seen it. That's how long it takes me to edit these videos. But this just came out this week. Gives you a bit of a sense of idea in the timings of these videos. But I'm excited because What's not to
Is
like?
it not based on true events?
I think it's slightly fictitious, but there's a slight realness to it. It's a Tarantino movie. Tarantino's never done a bad movie, so
It's his 9th of 10.
9 for 10.
He said he will only ever make 10 movies.
I think Luc Besson said exactly the same thing. Luc Besson said he would make 10 movies, and then Luc Besson now is on about number 20 or something.
I don't know Luc Besson.
I think I'm going to have to... Luc Besson, The Fifth Element. Yeah? He's done a few good movies, but he's done a lot of dross as well.
Yeah.
But Tarantino, wow, every single movie. Even, I think the two strongest, Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction.
For me, Kill Bill.
Kill Bill, Volume 1 and 2. It's the same movie, Carl. It's split up because people have got no attention. It's split up because people have no attention span. But yeah, around here it's tourist filled. Like, Carl's a tourist. Most people, 90% of people on this street are tourists. But it's a little bit windy. I don't know how the microphone's going to cope with this. I'm going to stop filming right now. For some reason, a moment ago there was a lot of traffic, and now the traffic's just stopped and the police have rocked up. It's usually symbolic by the fact that there's someone important might be coming through. Maybe it's the Prime Minister, maybe it's royalty. I don't know. There's a reason to stop traffic. I don't think there's a protest. It turns out it's a protest I can get behind also. It's an animal rights protest. It wasn't someone important, so they're sort of blocking the road because protesters need to come through. Right, and you've got to respect that. It's a Saturday, a lot of protests happening on Saturdays. Right, anyway. Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
It's not bad, it's the first pint of the day. It's quite nice, isn't it? School pub. Is that your jacket?
Yeah.
Alright, we could sit outside, but let's just chill out. Let's chill in here. It's a typical sort of old British pub. How old this is, I'm not sure, but it probably dates back a couple of 100 years or so. Probably, you know what I'm going to do? I'll put a little description on below to show you how old this place is. This is a standard, this is what most pubs in London look like. There you go. Let's enjoy those beers. The White Horse. This is a classic. This is an old school place. We can stand outside, have a beer. It's very... I'll get these ones.
Thank you.
I got this one.
No, sorry, I've got it. You get tonight.
What?
You get later. No, I've got it.
Really? Just had an amazing pint of this White Horse at the Sam Smith's pub. If you want cheap pints in London, try to look for Sam Smith's on the Google Maps and bargain. You can get 3 pints for under £15. That might seem like a lot to some people, but in London that's actually quite cheap. Normally we're getting into the £7 area, £8 in some places. So 3 pints for £14, not too bad.